The king answered in verse 5 and said to the Chaldeans, "My decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made an ash heap." I like the old King James here, a dunghill. "However, if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and its interpretation." So Nebuchadnezzar refuses to tell the wise men the details of his dream. He requires them, after all, if they do have revelation from the spirit realm, can't the spirit realm tell them what the dream is, the details? If the wise men can tell Nebuchadnezzar the content of the dream, well, they'll be honored and rewarded. And Nebuchadnezzar will also know that the interpretation is accurate. If they don't tell Nebuchadnezzar the dream and its interpretation, they'll be cut in pieces, and their houses will be made a landfill. What a deal. So verse 7, they answered again and said, "Well, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will give its interpretation." They don't usually have to tell what the dream content was. They just give you tell us the dream, we'll look it up in our books, and this is how it works. We don't do it this way. It's always an open book test. And the king answered and said, "I know for certain that you would gain time, because you see that my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me, there is only one decree for you. For you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me its interpretation." You know, it's interesting that Nebuchadnezzar, he doesn't really believe in his own system. He knows that it's corrupt. He knows that these leaders that are leading the government and leading the nation, that they're corrupt imposters. And that this is just the way that it is in Babylon. The people in the government there are corrupt. Can you imagine? Verse 11, it is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. The wisest men in Babylon could not answer Nebuchadnezzar. He had nothing to offer. And they acknowledged that only the gods could know the answer. And they say of the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Boy, if God just dwelt with us in the flesh, then we'd have all the answers, right? And what does Paul say in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16? "Great is the mystery of godliness, that God was manifested in the flesh, in the person of Jesus Christ." God does come in the flesh about 400 years after this. He does dwell among us in person. Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. And so verse 12, "For this reason the king was angry and very furious, and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And so the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them." Because remember, they're in training to become wise men. And so verse 14, then, I love this, verse 14, "Then with counsel and wisdom Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon." He responds with counsel and wisdom. Remember, Daniel's a teenager. And he responds here with wisdom to this captain of the king's guard who's going out and rounding up the wise men to execute them. And he answered and he said to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is the decree from the king so urgent or harsh?" Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might tell the king the interpretation. Now, I want you to note here the different response of Daniel from the wise men. The wise men told the king, "It's impossible. There's no way we can know if you don't tell us the dream. There's no possible way, period." End of discussion. But Daniel said to the king, "Give me some time." Now, he doesn't know at this point what God's going to do. He just says, "Hey, give me some time." And what does Daniel do? Daniel, listen, he created an opportunity for God to work. He created some time. He created some space for God to work. And this is impossible, right? It's impossible. The wise men said, this is impossible for us to answer. And things that are impossible for us are not impossible for God. And I think the lesson here for us is, instead of immediately saying no, or that's impossible, or there's no way it's going to work out, or there's no point in even trying, period, end of discussion, it's a good idea just to create an opportunity for God to work and just see if the Lord's in it. Let's just give it a couple days. Let's just pray about it. We don't have to give an answer right now, so let's just pray. And let's just see if the Lord's in it. Let's see if the Lord will do something. Let's see if the Lord will open a door. Maybe He won't, but maybe He will. So let's just give God the opportunity to show up, give God the opportunity to work, and see if the Lord's in it. And that's what Daniel does.